welcome to the first ever Dino HC podcast. We're going to break down all the divisions, but not all of them today, just the first one. Today, I have with me the one, the only, the man who set this whole thing up, the guy who made us apply, then we had to interview. We had to go through a whole process. Welcome, Brad Anderson, the commish. Welcome.
What up? How you doing? How you doing?
That's it. That's all you got.
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. And of course, with us is the man who set up this whole Excel sheet and gave us all the stats regarding what happened in the draft. It's Klyborg. It's Sean Klyborg. What's up?
How's it going, guys? Glad to be here and glad to break this down. I've been excited after I put this together. I was excited to get to this, so let's get to it.
Yes, let's get to it. We've been talking for an hour now, me and Sean, waiting for the commish to get here. But it's fine. It's all good. Commish, I just want to ask you regarding the vetting. Like, did you get lazy at some point because you let in some people who I feel like don't really get the vibe of the league? You know, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely so. Like the assistant commissioner, getting Cameron, he was definitely a mistake. I should have. I will delete him at some point soon. And probably I'll delete him, say it was an accident, let him back in, delete him again, and just see how long it lasts until he finally goes away.
Wow, it's like a love, hate, hate, hate. Okay, relationship. Okay.
Exactly.
I get you. Okay. And just like one final thing before we get into the whole breaking down the division. Why are we calling it Division One? And why is this a thing? Can we I thought we settled on legends. I personally prefer to go a different route, the opposite route of giving them names from people who are disgraced from the NFL, but that's fine. You wanna give it to legends, that's it's your league. I don't mind. So will you be changing it, or was it all for nothing? Or are you gonna keep them? You keep the numbers?
Yeah, I'm super down for changing it. And I know you're used to placing last, so you're used to supporting the last place people, so I understand why you'd want to name the divisions like that. But I think for those of us that strive to be a little bit higher, maybe legends would be appropriate. But no, I don't care. Yeah, I'm totally down to change it. I think it would be pretty cool to win the Jim Brown division or the Peyton Manning division. I think that sounds much cooler than competing for Division Two.
If we're going to name them by Mannings, can we just give them all Manning? Every division of Manning? Would that be possible?
Just the Peyton, the Eli, the Archie.
Yeah. And the other one who doesn't play football, what's his name? I don't know. Connor?
Is that his name?
Probably.
The one, the Peyton's older brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they've got the kid coming up. We could preemptively go ahead and name him a Hall of Famer.
Archie Jr., I think. Yeah.
All right. I think that's it. I mean, the commish is feeling the heat under the questioning. Like, I'm going to give him a break and give him a pass. So I'm going to give it over now to Klyborg. Sean, tell us what you've done here with the Excel sheet. Give us a breakdown, if you will.
Okay, so the sheet essentially breaks down the divisions, each person in each division. It shows their pick number. For example, we use the Commish's team. This is one we're going through. So his first pick 102 is Jamar Chase. It's labeled as a wide receiver, and all the way down through his 22 picks. So it says his exact picks, what they are, and they're labeled there. It also has his future picks. And this is current all the way at the end of the draft. If there's any trades after that, then they're not on here right now. And then it breaks down position totals from quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. So it shows how many of each position that person drafted, and also has a breakdown of how many rookies and then veterans. So anybody with 1 year of experience or more. And then it has a team power ranking. Which is broken down because somebody in the league has a ton of picks and they didn't want to be dead last and everything. So it has a picks a breakdown of if you with the picks included, it has a number, and then below that is players only. So basically for this year contending or going forward. And then at the bottom, I have a little description of what we are going to break down and if we think this person is a contender this year, if they're sort of a mixed bag, or maybe they have a contend in 1-2 years, or if they're like a soft rebuild, or if somebody's in complete reconstruction mode, or something like that. So we can kind of label these teams. But this is to me nicely broken down, kind of gives us
Very
a good
nice.
overview of each team, and lets us kind of understand everything from the macro perspective.
Yeah, I think it's great. I would love to have this on a plane on a long flight, so that will keep me busy, keep me entertained throughout. I also I think we should leave the Commish's team to the end so that he pays attention throughout, because I think once we get with him, he's gonna check
Yeah.
out. So
Okay.
we'll start. Where would you guys like to start?
Let's start with from Silent Killa,
Silent
or that would have
Killer.
been, yeah, that would have been Bradical. So he was the 101. So we can start there.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
So he obviously picked Jefferson as his number
Yep.
one. Kind of cliche, if you ask me, as a pick. Yeah, you're nodding,
Yeah.
Sean. You're nodding. I mean, like,
I,
uh,
I have Jefferson in several other leagues, so
did he
I would have taken him too. So
did he
that's
try to trade his pick? Because he seems like the type that he would try to trade, try to move down from.
I
I
don't
don't.
think he's traded any picks at all.
no, no. He's gotten a pick actually. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, so what stands out on this roster? You want to go through the top? I don't know, top five picks.
yeah, I'll go through those real quick, and I'll highlight rookies, and we can break down those kind of top ones. So Justin Jefferson, Cooper Cup, Derrick Henry, Calvin Ridley, Alvin Kamara, Keenan Allen, his QBs, Dak Prescott, and James Conner. So those are his basically starters. And then
Mm.
he has rookies. He's got Keishon Butte, Sean Tucker, and Dontavian Wicks. Kind of, those aren't really high producers. They're upshots there, especially late round picks and or free agent signings. But as
All
for
right.
starters, he's got good ones.
He's got some. I mean, Cooper Cup. He's a PPR machine. Calvin Ridley is a bit of an unknown. Is that fair to say, Kamish?
I think Calvin Ridley's fair to say it. This team to me is like the dream redraft team. I don't
Mm.
know how I feel about it in necessarily in Dynasty.
Yeah.
Like from a redraft perspective, I think this team is unbelievable. You would never get it. This is like an eight
No.
team kind of redraft team. It's insane. But from a dynasty perspective, I do scratch my head a little bit at like, Cooper Cup, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, James Conner. Those are all the guys that I'm trying to sell in all of my dynasty leagues. I'm trying to sell every one of those to get players and picks. I'm trying to trade Henry to get, maybe ETN if it's available with a couple of small players or something like that. So the team is unbelievable. I don't see. I think the power ranking shows this team is in the middle of the league. I don't know how this team finishes in the middle of the league. This team should be way at the high end of the league. But in terms of value, I think it's going to be really hard to sell some of these players. If Derrick Henry comes out and he struggles, and he's not Derrick Henry of old, his value on the trade market is negligible. So it's a really risky team. If he doesn't walk away with a title in the first two seasons, he's going to be holding the bag on a lot of these players.
Yeah. Before you step in, Sean, I mean, Alvin Kamara, like you talk about risky. I mean, this guy, we don't know what he's going to do. We don't know where he's going to be. So a player besides Jefferson that I like on this team, I would say probably James Conner. I think James Conner is an interesting piece to have. And I don't know, maybe Arizona is in a rebuilding, is a tank mode. I don't know if that's the case, but James Conner will get touches down the goal line, and he's capable if he stays healthy. Sean, what did you want to say?
So yeah, I completely agree with the commission. Like redraft, this is the team you want. If you're only going to have them for 1 year, because a lot of these guys are older. A lot of these guys are going to be are known producers, but in 2 or 3 years, they're not going to be worth anything. And it seems like the number of people we have in the league now and the way that they play, nobody's going to be paying up for them. So, uh, but also his depth. His depth isn't quite there, especially in the tight end. He's got Irv Smith and Zach Ertz as some of his starters. I don't know if Zach Ertz is even going to be ready to play, and Irv Smith is going to a new team. So that does hold him back a little bit, but he should be able to produce points every week. So I agree. It says number 10 for him in the rankings. I don't think that's quite where he will finish. But if he has injuries to his team, it's going to be tough for him to maintain that winning streak.
I think I would also, not to interrupt you, I would just note that I will give him credit. He got the best value at quarterback, I think, in our league. Pretty much across the board, we all overpaid for quarterback because they kept going, they kept going. Like almost every team in the league had one. And he got a really dependable, maybe not a favorite quarterback, but a dependable quarterback in round 8, which is way more value than any of us got.
He should have gone lower, if anything. Anyway, what do you guys think? Is this a contending team?
Yeah, I agree. It's going to contend pretty quickly, but I think it's going to fade pretty quickly. Lightning bolt.
So he makes the playoffs. He makes the playoffs, but crashes out. Doesn't go far. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe. Injuries, he's got old guys with injuries and suspensions. Injury history. So if that hits him, he's out.
If you have the number 1 pick, the minimum expectation should be playoffs. A minimum expectation should be a top 14. Like if you draft normally. So he's like he did not fuck up his draft. That's what we're saying here. Brad, you did not fuck up. Well done. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Nuggets in 4. Already a huge mistake there. It was in 5. It was beautiful. Well done to Luke and his Nuggets. It's Luke, right? I'm not saying that.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Luke had the 9th pick overall, and he went with Tyreek Hill as his first pick. You want to break down, Sean, the rest of his picks?
Yeah, I think he was a guy who held on to his position quite well from when I was going through everything. I think I even have one of these numbers maybe wrong in here, but he didn't trade around too much. He actually had one extra pick in there. He kept most of his draft picks. He got a few rookies in here. So he started out with Tyreek Hill. He went Saquon Barkley, Trevor Lawrence, Miles Sanders, Dallas Goedert in the 5th, David Montgomery, and then Tyler Lockett. So those are his, he got all those picks up into middle of the 6th round. So all those players are decently young. They're going to produce. He got a young quarterback. He got a good tight end on a good offense. He got good running backs to be able to put up some points, and a couple wide receivers as well as Marvin Mims. That's where I think being in this PPR league, he might lack a little bit of the point scoring when it comes to that, considering all the flex positions that we have. But otherwise, he didn't move around a lot. I think he took what he was given, considering he's in the middle of the draft.
Yeah. Before we bring you in, I just want to point out that he's got the most rookies selected in this division. He's got 6. I don't know if that's an advantage down the line 2-3 years from now. I'm not sure. But Commish, when you look at this lineup, do you think it's sexy? Do you think it's a sexy roster?
I think it's concerning. I think there's a couple of things that concern me. One, I think Tyreek is a dominant player, one of the very best receivers in football, absolute megastar. But he's made it known that when his contract ends, he plans to retire. Now, who knows if he sticks with that, right? But if what we go by is what he says is when his contract ends, I think in 2025, he's retiring. So
Mm.
there is a if he's truthful, and we have no reason not to believe him, that asset to me is somewhat landlocked, right? Who's going to pay up for a guy that said, "Hey, here I'm about to be out of here soon," and then Saquon is very audibly in press conferences saying, "Hey, if they don't pay me the dollar that I need, I'm not going to be here this year." So there is a chance. There is a chance that this team, their highest drafted player that plays in week one for them is Trevor Lawrence. And that feels risky to me. Obviously, I don't know that you could have predicted Saquon's comments coming out in the presser, which after our draft ended. So maybe out of his control there. But the Tyreek comments have been out for a little while. So I would say my main vibe with this team, if you will, is just a little concern. If things fall right, if all those players play, and he has some good help, then I think it's a middle of the pack team. Personally, I like to invest in high end receivers. It's a full point PPR league, as was mentioned already. So I think if Tyreek plays, if Saquon plays, I think this is a middle of the pack squad. But I'm concerned about those early picks.
You think you could get Saquon on the cheap?
To me, I wouldn't pay for Saquon, even on the cheap. I mean,
Mm.
he's saying he's not going to play. You don't know if the Giants are going to give him the money he needs. And if they don't, is there another situation where he gets the same kind of workload? And has
Mm.
that workload been good to him in the past, or has he struggled with injury? I don't know that Saquon's a guy that I'm investing heavily in.
All right. Is there a player for you, Sean, that you like on this team besides Tyreek Hill, besides his first choice?
Um, to me, I think him taking Marvin Mims. Mims, I think, is an underrated rookie. I think being on that Denver team, considering Cortland Sutton is going to be somebody who's aging out, and Jerry Judy across the field who can run routes. Marvin Mims is a good sized receiver who can run routes well. If Russell Wilson comes back like the way that he could, considering seeing him last year, he didn't look great. The only person who looked worse than him coming back was Sean Watson, and it's a whole nother story. But Marvin Mims there in the seventh as a rookie could give him some weight going into next year because Tyler Lockett's getting old too. And so that would be his first three receivers go Tyreek Hill, Tyler Lockett, Marvin Mims. And so then it's Alec Pierce and Odell Beckham. So he's got a mix of young and old, but those young wide receivers really have to prove it. And we all know running backs aren't for long. So with this being PPR again, like he could settle in the middle, but he does have picks going into the future. But again, I think if concerning is probably the right word, he's got a sort of shaky foundation in the places that I think that he should have built up on more. Considering he got three running backs going in the beginning.
So does this seem like someone who in the ninth, like he drafted thinking, you know what? I really want Tyreek Hill no matter what, and I want Saquon Barkley no matter what, because he did trade to get Barkley based on this. So
Yes.
does this seem like a guy who knows what he's doing or doesn't give a shit, is an anarchist? What kind of individual is this draft wise? Okay, you
I mean,
guys.
to me, I don't have a problem with like if you love Tyreek Hill, you think he's going to give you a 2 year window where he's going to be a top, maybe wide receiver number one overall. Like, that's fine. I think you just got to pair him with youth, right? Like, you got to protect the position.
You gotta
Like I'm
protect.
going to take Tyreek. I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey. I know he's going to be a top three running back barring injury, but then you got to pair him with the young guys so that way you have a little bit of backup. And the way
Mm.
he supported Tyreek is to wait 5 rounds and draft Tyler Lockett, who's in his 30s. I don't know if that's the route I would have taken, but you know, this team probably ends up being better than all of ours. Who knows?
So is he gonna not contend this year? Is that what we're saying?
I think if he does, it might be a low seed. He might end up playing somebody with a much heavier starting roster. And if again, uh, with who he has, and we know running backs get hurt every year, so he could be out really quick. I don't see him carrying the trophy at the end of the year, but who
Wow.
knows?
Oh, that was so mean, Sean. Relax.
Hey,
Take it easy.
we're not here to hold feelings, right?
I do not see him. Yeah, okay, that's fine. We can move on to the next one. Yeah. Wilson's volleyballs. This is Cammy who? Cammy who? Is that Cameron's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cameron's, yep.
Okay. Cameron had the 11th pick overall, went with Garrett Wilson as his number one choice. I have to say it's a pretty interesting team at the beginning. It's a bit top heavy. I don't know what do you make of it, Commish?
I mean, there's names that I love here. I think it's really interesting that he has a really heavy draft capital for 2024. He's got two firsts and two seconds. He also has a couple of thirds and some fourths. So he's got room if he wants to make some deals to get additional players. I think he could absolutely get that done with those firsts and seconds. Or if he wants to sell out, if he wants to send Debo off, get another pick, then he could come into the 2024 season with a talented wide receiver, a talented running back, a talented quarterback, and 3 first-round picks. So I think his team's not done yet. I think the trajectory of his team could very much change if he opens up. My suspicion with this roster is he opens up with a 1-4 record. This team could offload some of the older talent, end up with a couple of more picks, and be really geared up for 2024. Because Garrett Wilson's a monster talent. Kenneth Walker, I know we hate his situation, but he is an absolute superstar talent. Bryce Young, I think whether you think Bryce Young will be the next Drew Brees or not, I think most of us would probably say he should be okay at least. So Pat Fryermuth is shown to be a talented tight end. So I think that there's pieces here that are young that could contend. I'm just really interested to see, is he more of a sell early? Because guys like Debo's a diminishing asset. I think Debo still brings value right now, but if you hold on to Debo another season or two, you might have held on too long. Jamal Williams, his time is limited. So I'm just interested to see if this team is going to stay in and sell those first, get more players, try to contend for the playoffs, or if this is going to be a sell early team to really bulk up for the 24 draft.
Sean, what do you make of the pick selection? Like he went wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, quarterback, and then he didn't pick to the seventh round. So like he picked his first 4 rounds, and then boom, seventh, eighth, 10th. Um, like how would you analyze the drafting here? Like if you could, like if you can't, let me know. That's fine. Like I'm not gonna hold it
Yeah.
against you.
Oh, don't worry. I've already analyzed it, but I think that's when he was selling off those middle rounds. Not unlike a strategy I was doing, but I took a different route. Instead of getting picks, I got players. And he took picks. He's got 2 firsts next year. Excuse me, 2 seconds, 2 thirds. So he's able to kind of restock next year if things don't go his way. Which I'm looking at, his running backs, Jamal Williams, Jarek McKinnon, those guys are old, right? They might get
Yeah.
hurt. Kenneth Walker has already been hurt. They drafted Zach Charbonnet to back him up. So are you going to get production in your running back slot? And then for his wide receivers, his third one is Michael Gallup. Is he playing number 3 on that Cowboys offense? And then KJ Osborne, they just picked up Addison to mix him in there, and they have TJ Hawkinson. So there's a lot of limited opportunity for his team to kind of score. They are somewhat young, but somewhat old. But I think restocking next year is going to be his best approach, and he kind of took that approach. So he's got to buy. I think he's got to buy in on that and hope that he can at least do something this year and maybe sell off those assets. I think he's kind of banking on that.
So, no, this whole Kenneth Walker thing, like he's going to be okay, right? Like he's a talented running back, but even if he gets injured, he will move if he doesn't get any playing time, right? Like that's the likelihood that he will, like a team would see, like, okay, give me Kenneth Walker, I'll give you a third round or a second round or whatever for Kenneth Walker. I think that's plausible, right? Like you can't dismiss the fact that Kenneth Walker the third is a great running back and young.
I would invest in Kenneth Walker with confidence right now. To me, this is the time to buy Kenneth Walker. because you haven't seen it on the field. People are worried about it. There's mass concern all across the community. I think we're one or two home runs away from Kenneth Walker, where he hits a 60-yarder in a game, and 2 weeks later he hits a 70-yarder, and people start buying in again. I think he's a mega star talent. I think his workload will fall back from what it was last season, but I think he kind of showed last season that he maybe can't handle that full workload. He struggled with injuries. He struggled with some ineffectiveness. So I think maybe this season he might find his more natural role and potentially be more explosive than he was in past seasons. I would buy talent. I am a fan of buying talent. I think now is the time to pick up Kenneth Walker, not the time to walk away from him.
Speaking of workload, Debo Samuel, that's a player on this roster that concerns me the most. Like, I don't know how they're going to use him. I know like he's probably their most talented player, but we don't know the quarterback situation. We don't know who's going to start. Could be Trey Lance, could be Brock Purdy, could be Sam Darnold. We don't know what CMC's involvement is going to be with the Niners. He's probably going to carry most of the workload. Like, we don't know. And can you trust Shanahan? Can you trust him? I can't trust him. So that's why I'm worried about Debo Samuel. Sean, tell me why I'm wrong.
I wish I could.
Oh,
He recently came out and said that he needs to improve. He was watching his film from last year and that he's going to do better and be better. But considering that quarterback situation that they have there, that's tough to tell what type of offense they're going to be running. With Trey Lance, is that a run and gun where Trey Lance is going to tuck away and go? Or is it the Brock Purdy offense, which Shanahan prefers and is going to, zip the ball down the field? And as we saw that one year that Debo finished number 2 and number 3 as wide receivers, that's when he got a lot of run out of the backfield. And with Christian McCaffrey back there and the way that they usually run that backfield, they don't need that. And I just think that I think he's less injury worry and more production worried based on the opportunities that aren't going to be there.
so we're talking rebuild already for Cameron.
I think it's a
I think it's
foundational rebuild.
probably I think it's probably his most likely route to true contendership. Right? I think if he really wants to be a top team, he probably sells Debo early. Debo's going to have games. Wait till one of those games happen, sell him. Jamal Williams has shown last year he's going to get touchdowns. Let him get 4 touchdowns in 6 weeks. Sell him, and end up with maybe 3 firsts, maybe at 3 seconds, maybe, and see if you can hit your luck in 24 draft.
All right. Do you agree, Sean? Yeah, you agree. Okay, you're nodding.
Yeah,
you don't need,
yeah.
you don't need to say anything. You were nodding. I saw it. It's fine. You're good, man. You're good. Yes, you're a good Klyborg. Moving on to the final team, final roster. It's the commissioners teams, 88s. Could you explain the name, the team name?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very easily. My favorite player of all time in any sport, Marvin Harrison.
Oh, okay.
I am a Colts fan because of Marvin Harrison. I loved Marvin Harrison when I was a little kid. I thought I should be Marvin Harrison.
Oh,
He was my favorite player in any sport, and he's the sole reason I'm as big a football fan as I have been. So all of my fantasy teams across all platforms are all named 88s.
well, that
That
was
always is
touching.
confusing.
That was touching, Commish. That was touching. I like. We see that you had the second pick overall. Not rigged. It was not rigged.
It wasn't.
And, well, okay. Jamar Chase was your selection. Can you tell us why Chase over other receivers? Because he does have the Higgins issue. Like, there is a Higgins there. Like, Justin Jefferson doesn't have a Higgins. So are you
Yeah.
comfortable with Chase, like, sort of sharing the spotlight, sharing the targets?
Sure. Justin Jefferson doesn't have a Burrow. So I don't have a problem with taking Jamar Chase at all.
Okay.
I love Justin Jefferson. If he was there at the 1 and 2, I certainly would have taken him. But Jamar Chase is a difference maker. He's a special athlete. Even T. Higgins has acknowledged that Jamar Chase is a different kind of guy. Joe Burrow thinks Jamar Chase hung the moon. So I'm absolutely happy with that.
Okay, so Sean now is gonna like look at your team and he's gonna dissect it, but don't worry, it's not personal. It's just business. Like it's nothing. Don't take it personally. Sean, take it away.
It's very personal. It's always personal, right? No, I think when I was putting this team on here, I was also agreed it was rigged. Both Brads got number one and number two, so obviously. But being able to make that trade before the draft was over to get Joe Burrow with that Jamar Chase stack, that is a powerful move. That's going to be something that's going to go for years. You don't have to worry about your number one or your QB for a long time. Combined with Amon Ra and Najee Harris, which I have labeled as a tight end. I don't know why I did that. Maybe it's because he's as big as a tight end, but uh, his his team, and I can see now I didn't label this completely correctly, which is hilarious. Maybe I had something in my head as a vendetta against the commissioner, but his team is well put together. You got young talent, he's got talent everywhere. And it's gonna be able to last for years to come. The only issue that I see is that the tight end position is Darren Waller, who is 31. And even though he's moving over to a team where I'm losing the name of the coach, but the Giants coach and working with um, Daniel Jones, they like to target the tight end, especially over the middle of the field and in the end zone. And with Daniel Bellinger, who was a rookie last year, that was easy to see. He got some really quality targets when it came to that. But as much as they can mesh, that's going to be a positive, but he's not going to last for long. So pairing him with some younger ones, again, he picked up Bellinger. So if that system works, he's going to be able to play off of that. But yeah, when it comes to the other players, the running backs is where I think he's a little bit weak, but it's a matter of being able to score points in PPR. And it's not that he needs a running back position. Again, we have 3 starting wide receivers and 3 flex, and all those can be wide receivers. So this is one of the highest ranked teams when it comes to players. It's number 2, and with picks included, it's number 3. So this is a very strong team. I would expect nothing less of a commissioner who puts together a league like this, but also number 2 pick. I think it's really solid and definitely a contender.
I just want to apologize on behalf of the podcast, Commish, for this like slanderous accusation that you are like a number 2 ranked overall. You're clearly number 1, Commish. You're gonna take it all, aren't you? This is your year.
I would not put me as the favorite. No,
You don't want to be the
not
favorite.
for this year.
No, you don't want to be
I
the.
wouldn't be.
Okay.
No, I don't want to be.
Yeah.
It's not like my players would know, right? We're not going to put any pressure. No, I don't want to be. I think there are other teams. I think particularly there are a couple of teams that are built for this year. I think Brad, which we already reviewed, the very first guy, I think his team for this year should be better than mine. If they're all stay healthy and they all produce the way they could. But I really like my team. There are some players on it that I don't love, so that I wish were slightly safer, like Isaiah Pachenko at 604. I mean, I needed an RB2. He's a talented kid, but he's also what, a 6th round running back. So you worry, is that
7th
going to
round.
last? Is that type of investment? That is the team going to stick with him? I don't know. But I like my
Was
team. I'm pretty content with it. I'll continue to make moves. We'll see what happens.
was there a tight end you wanted besides Darren Waller in the 7th round? Was like Friar Muth, like if he fell to you, the Muth, would you take him?
No, no. I think my next pick was the 9th round, and I traded up specifically to get Darren Waller. To me, that offense,
Mm.
there's no reason why Darren Waller's not the number 1 targeted player on that offense. They severely lack talent in terms of guys that can get open and be difference makers at pass catching. So I think Darren Waller's window is probably small, right? I don't think he's going to be, a top tight end for the next 5 years, but I think he could get me by, with high tight end production for the next 2, maybe even 3 years.
I mean, the Chase Amon Ra tandem is just beautiful. Like it's so juicy. And then the pick of Ezekiel Elliott and James Robinson kind of like sours the mouth a little bit. Like it's like what happened there? Like I was having a great meal and then like you just throw this in my face. Like what was the thinking behind that?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's just a matter of like what was left. So if you go around and you look kind of at what was left in the area of like Ezekiel Elliott, for example, I
I know.
mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about nothing. We're talking about players that have potentially no role at all in the teams that they're on. Zeke's not currently signed to a team, but I think he will sign to a team. I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility for Zeke to get 500 yards and 6 touchdowns this year. And for a league that has 3 flex positions, I think that's fine. I would be okay with that.
Would you be okay with not reaching the Super Bowl, the final?
Would I be okay with it? I mean, it's not ideal.
No, would you be okay with it? I think it's like you would like if you look at your team, you'd be like, okay, I didn't make it to the final. It's fine. It's okay.
I think for me, my goal for the season would be a playoff win. Um, and anything after that, I think I would be fine with. I think if I did anything less than win a playoff game, I'd be a little disappointed.
Sean, do you agree with that, or by looking at the team, or what do you think?
Well, I think he's going to be seeded, but if I make it to the playoffs and you're playing against me, I got guys that score touchdowns. So,
All right.
but no, it's
Yeah,
a it's
I
a
don't
it's
have
a
any of
good
those.
team. It's a good team, and I think he's trying to be humble, but I think he likes how he's put together, and I think he's got a good setup for the next couple years. It's trying to piece together that, and I think that's why he got those late RBs because they might be picked up. There's several of them out there, and some people picked them up on their teams in case they get picked up by a team.
Yeah, the waiver situation should be very interesting once the season starts. And I mean, he did have. I mean, the commish had the second pick overall. Naturally speaking, like he should finish at bare minimum fourth, like fourth overall. Commish. That's your floor. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I,
that's what.
I will say, and I didn't do any research into this. I don't know, but I believe only 2 of my actual picks that I made during the draft were my natural slots. I think Jamar Chase and Sean Clifford were the only players I actually drafted at picks that were mine originally when the draft started.
That's great. That's beautiful. That you're first and
Wow.
you're last. That's great.
And I'm glad you took that Sean Clifford at the end. I know that was an ode to me, and I thank you. I appreciate that novelty pick just for because his name was Sean. He was like the last one left.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to add, Sean, to this list? Is there? I mean, like he's a contender. We know he's a contender, and I think out of this division, we have we have 2 contenders and 2 rebuilds, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it pretty much seems that way um with the ways that the teams turned out. It seems like one of the weaker teams would be the one who's got the most picks, and that would be Wilson's Volleyballs or Cameron's team. It is a little bit quote unquote weak, but he's got the picks to rebuild and he could be pretty strong in the next few years. And Luke's team, it's shaky. The foundation's shaky. And then Brad and obviously the Commish's team, they're strong. They're able to produce points. Again, fantasy football comes down to injuries, and if Bradical's team gets hurt, he ain't got much depth left. So
But it's fair to say that Luke's team, Nuggets and Four, has the best name. No offense to the 88s. Great name too. Very touching. But Nuggets and Four, that's great because he got it wrong, but he's still happy, like he's still happy with
yeah,
the outcome.
yeah.
And but like who is gonna win? Which Brad will win the division? Is it the Silent Killers or the 88s?
Mm, mm. Let's see, barring injury, I
Barring
think the silent killers have the upper hand there.
stacked. Okay. All right.
I would hope for his sake that he wins the division. With as much as he's invested in older players, if he doesn't win a division, that's gonna hurt real bad.
And on that note, thank you all for participating. That's a great line to edit on. Like he's gonna hurt
Yeah.
bad. It's gonna be painful.
It's gonna
But
hurt.
it's gonna it's gonna give it to him. But yeah, thank you so much, Commish, for joining. Sean, you were amazing. Thank you, both of you were amazing.